Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Preacher Dad Podcast, and you've made it to Fatherhood Friday. On this episode, we discuss conspiracy theories. We have a lot of fun with this one and also bring it home for an important lesson as well. So I hope you'll stick around and enjoy this conversation about conspiracy theories that the Fatherhood panel shares together. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Cornerstone Fellowship. Cornerstone Fellowship is a small little country church, and we're trying to do the best that we can do to proclaim Christ to the world. And if you're looking for a good place just a little north of Toomsboro, Georgia, to love Jesus and love each other, then we want to talk to you. We want to see you. We want you to come on by because Cornerstone Fellowship is a great little church that is just doing things the right way. At least we believe so. And if we're not, you're welcome to come and tell us whether we are or not. So check us out online at cornerstonefellowship-ga.org. That's cornerstonefellowship-ga.org, or you can also find us on Facebook as well. Okay, without any further ado, here's Fatherhood Friday.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Fatherhood Friday. We're glad you're here, all 20 of you. Hey, we're up to 20. Special shout out to Amy, who's out there listening. We sure appreciate your faithful support. So we're glad to be with you here today on Fatherhood Friday. I've got Matt Stewart here with me. I've got Nate Eisner, and we've got Tony Russell. And we are excited to share a little bit with you about conspiracy theories. Ooh. Nate is sporting his Bigfoot hat that he got from Bigfoot, I heard.
The world
Bigfoot.
is not just stuff, man.
Yeah. So, but Tony, lay the table for us here and set the table for this very fun and interesting and yet really important topic about conspiracies.
Sure thing. It is well known amongst the crew here that I am the conspiracy guy amongst us because
you're
I
the
believe
conspiracy king, Tony.
Yeah,
the conspiracy
that's
king.
Right. The hardest thing about trying to discuss conspiracy theories is trying to pick out which one because most of them are true. But one of them that I think is increasingly interesting and getting more interesting is the subject of aliens and whether or not aliens are real and aliens are going to visit. What would that mean to the Christian faith if an alien spacecraft showed up with people from another planet? I like to have, intellectual debates with myself, about that particular topic from time to time. But one of the things that's making it really interesting right now is the presence of a weird comet that's come through our solar system lately called 3I Atlas. It's named that because it's the third object that's been detected that's come from outside of our solar system, picked up by the Atlas Observatory, and it's displaying all types of characteristics that are not typical of comets. The most significantly weird one is that when comets approach the sun, they typically start to sublimate and outgas, where they start to form a tail that's blown behind them because of the radiation of the sun. But for some reason, this particular comet has a consistent habit of outgassing towards the sun, almost as though it's expelling exhaust. They've never seen this happen in nature ever before. This particular comet can blast a cometary tail towards the sun. They don't have any particular idea why. Another thing that's interesting about this particular comet is they have the capacity to determine the chemical makeup of the outgassed material itself. When it's coming out of these comets, this thing has very, very little water. It doesn't sublimate hardly any water. Most of its sublimation is nickel gas, which contains no iron, or very little iron, which is also extraordinarily rare because that doesn't happen in nature either. That happens in foundries where nickel is refined. And so there's a huge group of people out there that think this may be a craft of some kind that's meticulously navigating its way through our solar system to make contact with certain planets at certain times to be able to study them, and perhaps might even be doing so to us. So there are four kind of main vectors of thought on this. There's the people that believe absolutely nothing is happening. This is just a comet, and the loony bins on the internet are making a lot of hay out of nothing. I'm probably mostly in that group. There's a small group out there that believes that there is something going on, and the powers that be are making a lot of hay out of nothing to try to hide what's going on because they don't have any idea how to control the information or control what it is. And if you know what's going on, then you'll be scared to death and stock markets will crash. And then there's the idea that they do know what's going on. They're communicating with these beings. They've been able to use CERN to be able to connect some sort of interdimensional communication system back and forth with the occupants of 3i Atlas. Remote viewers have been able to communicate with these beings and figure out that they're here for peace, and all kinds of craziness that goes around those rabbit holes as well. And then there's, of course, the Christian view that says, I don't care, Jesus is coming sometime. So the question I would like to throw around to each of you guys is, what would be what you would believe to be the most compelling argument, not necessarily for aliens, but that there's something greater than what our government or what science can particularly explain is going on out there? And what would happen to your faith if this did turn out to be an alien crew that showed up on the White House lawn and demanded Big Macs with Donald Trump? What would you do?
Wow. I don't know.
I don't know who wants to start this conversation, but there's a grenade. Go ahead and jump on it.
I feel like every time I jump in and give my 2 cents, I always reference something that I've listened to or watched or read. So I'll continue in that same light. And actually, I think I referenced this in our paranormal episode, but I'll reference it again. Michael Heiser has an awesome documentary on aliens. You can look it up. Just type in Michael Heiser aliens, and it's like an hour-long documentary. Awesome stuff. We can get into that later. But he is an interesting guy because, we've referenced his work before, theologian, PhD, linguist, and everything. But I'm definitely not gonna be able to represent his view on this. But he has some interesting thoughts on why, if aliens were to show up, it really isn't a crisis for the Christian faith. I think he kind of gets that more so. And again, watch it and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not going to represent his views well here, because I just haven't watched his documentary in a while. But if I'm remembering correctly, it's that even though Scripture does not inherently say that God created aliens, there's also nothing in it that says he inherently didn't. And so, just because he created humanity, there's nothing implying that he did. Just because it doesn't imply, or just because it doesn't say that he did it, doesn't necessarily mean that he did. But if he did, it's not necessarily a problem, because Jesus died for humanity. He didn't necessarily die for aliens if God decided to create aliens on some other planet. So it's there's somewhere you got to play around with the philosophy there, and you're answering existential questions. But I don't know. He said it in his scholarly PhD voice. But yeah, it's a great documentary there. Very entertaining. He talks a lot about. I don't know if you want to get into this now or later. But he had some interesting stuff on Roswell, New Mexico, since that's obviously where we think of when we think of aliens. But that I remember a lot more than the theological part. But I'll let y'all go.
I think that
Jared, would you witness to the aliens?
Witness to them. No, I mean, I think that the Bible's pretty clear that human beings have a sin nature given to us by Adam, who was a human being.
Yep.
And so, the doctrines of grace and salvation and redemption, Jesus was incarnated as a man.
Yes.
He wasn't incarnated as some extraterrestrial being. So he is human in addition to being God. Still today, he's alive, got a living body. So if aliens showed up, I think I would probably say C.S. Lewis was definitely a prophet, because he wrote about it. He has a series called the Space Trilogy, in which he discusses the possibility of life on other planets and how those life forms could fit into a biblical framework. He sort of sets the context of the Bible and of God in a different way, without ever contradicting Scripture, or making God into something he isn't. He just imagines a different way to see the cosmos, and if it included other people or other beings, how they would relate to this almighty being, and how we relate to him, and the things that happen here they see differently on Mars and Venus and stuff. So I think I would probably fall into that category if aliens showed up. But the most intriguing part about aliens to me is that the United States government has now officially had testimony where a guy basically said, "Yeah, Roswell, they were dissecting an extraterrestrial being.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened." They basically admitted everything that when I was growing up was the kooky people, the crazy go nuts that thought something happened in Roswell, New Mexico. The government in swore it in testimony. The guy was committing perjury if he's lying. He said, "Yep, we were dissecting aliens. We found a craft. It seemed to be from another planet." And it's like it was almost a no story. Like nobody talked
Yeah.
about it hardly. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is happening in the world right now where the government just admitted that Roswell's real and aliens exist, and nobody
Well,
cared? It was so
and
weird. That was a weird thing
NASA
to me.
NASA came out too a few months back and said they found bacterial life on Mars, essentially
They did.
fossilized bacterial life.
See, I didn't even
So
hear
it's like,
about that.
yeah,
isn't
it
that
was such
crazy?
a non-story.
Oh,
I don't get it,
Hmm.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
Matt, would you teach the aliens how to play football?
no. I would just say stay away, they're demons.
Yeah,
Just
Yes.
and that's really, honestly, Matt, I think that's probably a more realistic side to all this.
Yeah.
I would agree, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you why in a minute.
Yeah,
Or I'll
go
tell you
tell
right
us
now.
right now.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Tell us right
Steal the
now.
thunder.
But a lot of it is in keeping with your logic that you presented, Jared. That humanity is the only beings that we know of in Scripture that are created in the image and likeness of God. That's not to say that nothing else is, but that we know explicitly that humans are. And for me, it would be if aliens are coming, I would want to know what their intent was and what they're here. If they came out and said, "Hey, Christ is King, by the way. We're actually part of the angelic choir, and this is the vehicle God made for us to travel between the stars to make sure that nature stays in order." That would be awesome. I would have no problem believing that these are real creatures. But if something comes down and says, "Hey, by the way, did you know that Jesus is a hoax, and we're here to make sure that you believe in the one true God of yourself," then 100% it's a demonic inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the whole thing is like when it comes down to aliens, it makes no hill of beans to me one way or the other whether or not they're real or not real. I couldn't care less. I believe in Christian faith. We believe already in interdimensional beings. There's all kinds of passages in scriptures of angels walking into the material world and affecting it in some kind of way, and material people being called out into the spiritual realm to be able to discern and understand what's going on in the spiritual realm. Ezekiel trying to explain the mechanism of God's throne room is unbelievable and incomprehensible almost to try to figure out what in the world is he even looking at. I was just reading today Elisha bringing his servant because they thought they were surrounded by the Syrians and praying that God would open his eyes to see who was really there. And the armies of the Lord and their chariots of fire are standing behind them, ready to strike them all with blindness. Like there's all kinds of stuff already that we as Christians believe or claim we believe that happens beyond what's material in the realms around us. I do think there will come a time when science advances well enough where we'll be able to capture glimpses of the immaterial world and maybe glimpses of the spiritual domain. I think all of it will prove to the expanse of God's kingdom. If things like this, the stupid Three Eye Atlas or the Roswell aliens or whatever, if there's more and more and more of that evidence comes out, I think they're going to find materially one or two things. One, they're not aliens. They didn't come from some foreign space. They came from a space between spaces. They came from an interdimensional space. And they're either part of the demonic armies that are here to confuse and corrupt humanity, or they're part of the kingdom of God. And I don't believe those are the ones that we're going to capture. I don't think those are the ones that are crashing their planes or crashing whatever it is that they're driving in. I don't think that they all actually drive in chariots of fire. I think that was probably the best way they could describe what was going on at the time. But do they have mechanisms and technology that allows them to move in ways that we couldn't potentially comprehend here in the material world? Absolutely, they do. We know that for sure that God's throne room does. I would imagine that he has equipped his armies with all kinds of things that manifest themselves in various different ways to us here in the material that we just don't have a way to describe or adequately really capture in the way that we communicate with one another. So It's easy to prey on the unknown and turn that into fear or turn that into some mechanism of control or some sort of confusion so that you can throw in whatever kind of ideology you want, or throw in whatever kind of layers of nonsense people are excited to believe in. But ultimately, I don't believe that there's a very big difference between what Christians believe in the interdimensional versus, like what Christians believe in the spiritual realm versus what new conspiracy scientists are trying to say is coming in from the interdimensional planes or from all these different places out there to try to come in and connect with humanity. It's the same thing with like DMT and some of these drug-induced encounters where you can have people that can take specific drugs, sit in a circle, and all experience the same hallucination. I believe that that's probably the same thing, probably a connection into some of the demonic. I think that there's specific reasons why the Bible forbids that and tells us to stay clear of those types of participations because there are likely demonic forces out there and gateways that demons know of, that God knows of too, but demons would use to be able to try to capture hearts and capture capacity inside of humanity based off of our willingness to try to reach out and access it. But as far as the 3-eye atlas thing is, I think it's probably a comet. The people that are looking at it are saying, well, if it is a comet, then it's older than our solar system itself, and it's billions and billions of years old. I believe that's probably also true, but that's because I believe time is completely relative. I don't believe that the time outside of the Earth matters. And I think that as God was hanging the universe in the 6 days that it took place here on Earth, it could have been any expanse of time out there, and it wouldn't have made a difference. We know for certain that time in the universe doesn't exist at the same rate everywhere. Time travels faster the closer you get to gravity wells like the sun or a black hole. So imagine a gravity well like God himself stepping into his own creation amongst the rules and laws he had just hung the universe upon, and then throwing everything from his mouth. The things that came out first and traveled the furthest would probably appeal or older to us, even though they were the same age technically, from gauging from the sense of time. So I think something like this is probably more than anything else an opportunity that God has given humanity to see just a little bit further than we ever have before into the great expanse that he's created, and to try to learn as much as we can from that and challenge maybe some of our physics and some of our understanding of the universe, some of the ways that we map out and determine how these comets are supposed to behave, and even how our own propulsion is supposed to behave. But I don't think it's aliens coming to say hi. If it is aliens coming to say hi, I'm not going to be super enthusiastic about it until they hail Christ as King.
Hey guys, I have a quick question for you.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about 7 Weeks Coffee. They are a company that believes every life is worth fighting for. When you purchase 7 Weeks Coffee, you're directly helping to fund their network of over 750 pro-life organizations across the country. That's because with every purchase of their delicious coffee, 7 Weeks is donating 10% of that sale to pro-life pregnancy centers that reach women and men in crisis every day. In the last 2 years, 7 Weeks Coffee has donated $250,000 to help save the lives of children and also rescue their parents from years of regret and suffering. But you don't have to endure poor quality coffee to make a difference. Their coffee is harvested in the most organic way possible, and you can taste the difference in every sip. It really is quite good, folks. I really am loving this coffee. These coffee beans are mold and toxin free, and they use organic farming practices, and the coffee is ultra low in acid. When a baby reaches 7 weeks from conception, it is the size of a coffee bean, and that is also the point at which a heartbeat is first detectable. 7 Weeks Coffee is committed to the pro-life cause, and you can get an outstanding product while contributing to the important work of pregnancy centers across the United States. Now, in order to get 10% off, you can go to preacherdad.com and use my special link, or you can go to 7weekscoffee.com and use the promo code PREACHERDAD for 10% off. And then you can join me in saving lives 1 cup of coffee at a time. Go to 7weekscoffee.com today and use the promo code PREACHERDAD.
So my question is, what would you say is the funniest conspiracy theory that you just think is hilarious? I just want on each of you to take that question and run with it.
Man.
And
That the 2020 election was fair.
that's
funny that that's the conspiracy.
That's funny.
Funniest conspiracy, man.
That just makes you go, oh, wow, that is so silly.
Hmm.
Or something funny. For me, it's the one about that birds aren't real. I think that's so incredibly far-fetched. Birds are
Look, you
not
got to
real.
replace their batteries once in a while, otherwise they go nuts. So
No, that's why they land on power lines so they can charge.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's ripe for great jokes.
So I don't do conspiracy theories a whole lot. I just don't know many. But you're saying birds, like little things with wings that fly
Yeah.
around outside, are not real.
Yeah, they're not
No.
real. No.
I'm not saying
100%
that,
they're
but
not
some
real.
people believe that they are fake.
You ever tried to
Yeah.
eat one without getting the battery? Of course, they're not real.
I don't
I
dare
understand
you to-
exactly.
Hey man,
I don't understand all the
hey,
ins and outs of it, but it's
we just
pretty
had
far-fetched.
fall turkey season, and I'm telling you, I saw turkeys in my yard every day for a month. And the day
Those
turkey season rolled around, they all disappeared. And for the 2 weeks that it was fall turkey season, not one turkey came around. You can't tell me that was not programmed into them. I'm telling you.
well, they're
You
too
upset the
expensive
Matrix.
to the government to just let them be shot at.
That's funny.
Nah,
What about-
man, that's a see. I don't know about funny ones. Like, so I get the spirit of your question because that is a goofy one. Um, I really hope that this was. I'm sure this was satire, but I saw a great video the other day. This guy talking about this conspiracy with the people that invented the Rubik's cube. I don't know. Have y'all seen that video floating
No.
around?
No.
Yeah, basically every year since the Rubik's Cube was invented, people have been solving it faster and faster, and eventually it's going to go into negative time. And they're basically going to use this Rubik's Cube to create a time machine so that they can go back in time and collect all the Rubik's Cubes that were created previously, and then they're going to sell them again at 100% profit. And it was
That sounds like a Doctor Who episode to me.
I can tell you, if I went back in time, the number one thing I would do is sell Rubik's cubes. That's how I would capitalize on that monumental event.
Oh yeah, because that's the only thing a time machine would be helpful to you for.
Hey, you want some funny, man? Okay, I'll throw some guardrails on this. Do this at your own risk because the guy's he's just insane. But just look up any clip of Alex Jones on Joe Rogan going off on a tangent, and man, you're gonna get because that is Alex Jones has no guardrails anyways. But Alex Jones on Joe Rogan, it's like he has license to just take it all the way, man. Dude, there's some funny stuff there. But again, do that at your own risk. But,
I bet.
I think he's probably only about 75% right, but that's what makes him funny.
so that probably, Matt, you have something to say?
I just again I pulled up Chat GPT and asked it some of the funny conspiracy theories. First one is the moon is made of cheese. I don't know. The earth is hollow and has a sun inside. Another one is Finland does not exist. Says it was invented by Japan and the Soviet Union during Cold War, so Japan could secretly fish in the Baltic Sea. Birds aren't real. That was the next one.
Yeah.
Cows are part of a government plot. Elvis is still alive.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
the
not a
Denver
conspiracy. That's true.
Yeah. And the Denver airport is the Illuminati headquarters.
Of course it is.
So
That one's actually probably real.
That might be real.
So I guess there's I know at some point we probably want to get to the ones that we think are true, but let me I guess I could throw one out that I think is probably true, and is kind of a gateway into something else that I want to talk about. I think a lot of conspiracies, when you look at when you can put a name to them and you can give a story and you can give a full in-depth explanation as to, hey, this is the conspiracy. I think the main conspiracy behind all that is that our government knows that people are going to eat it up, and they're going to use that as distraction to then control it in a different way. So a prime example of that, we've been talking about the Roswell thing. The reason that they kept Roswell alive for so long, and there's papers on this, is Project Paperclip, and basically the idea that alien life form crashed in the New Mexico desert was a perfect cover-up for the fact that we had Nazi scientists working in the country after World War II. And so right there, you've got this awesome distraction that people, it's sexy and it's cool and it's got all the bells and whistles that are going to get people talking, and the government knows that people are going to eat it up, and so they're going to use that as a cover-up. I think that's probably where most of these conspiracies come from. Would not surprise me in the slightest if the CIA creates a lot of these. But yeah, so I think that's probably the main conspiracy. I want to also get into the fact that, what happens if all these are true? What can we do about it? Very little. And that is a lesson that I've had to learn over the last couple of years. Not that you bury your head in the sand with what's going on. We joke about guys like Alex Jones. I like the guy. I've listened to him I mean, obviously he says some stuff that's crazy and funny, and he goes on tangents and stuff, and he's entertaining. He's also not wrong about a lot of the stuff he talks about. But what I've had to learn is how to separate what I need to worry about and what I don't need to fear, what I don't need to have anxiety on, and like what can I actually do about these things? And there's an excellent, I don't think he termed the quote, or I don't think he coined the quote. There's a guy named Justin Rhodes. He's in the homestead community. He's definitely probably about the farthest thing from a conspiracy theorist you'll find, as far as I know. At least he just doesn't talk about it on his YouTube channel. But in terms of whatever's going on out in the world, whatever war is going on, whatever the price of gas is going, is doing, whoever is in the White House, what can you do about it? Well, you can't do a thing about it, but you can go out in your backyard and you can play in a garden. Those are the things that you can control. And so what are you doing with your domain? What are you doing with the world that God has given you? What are you doing with the things in your life that God has given you to control? So I think that's the biggest question about, I love conspiracies. I love talking about them, but genuinely at the end of the day, I know it's very easy for me to get nervous talking about these things. It's very easy for me to listen to guys like Alex Jones or listen to an InfoWars broadcast, or even just hear some of the crap that's spewed on mainstream news media and say, well, we knew about that 5 years ago. It's making its way. I mean, I can look at that stuff all day. I remember the 2020 election and just being sick to my stomach. I had a newborn baby girl and thinking like, oh my gosh, what in the world are we going to do? Man, there's nothing I could have done about it. I got out there, I voted, I spread information as best I could. That is all I could do in terms of the results of the election. But what I could do is the things in my life, be frugal with my finances, make sure that I'm right with the Lord, make sure that I'm leading my family to be right with the Lord, telling others around me about Jesus, and, having a contingency plan, making sure I'm stocked up on bullets and water bottles, those kind of things. Control the areas that you can control, because you can't control what other people could do. You can't control what the government does. And I think there's a man, I don't remember where it is. It's in if it's in Ecclesiastes or Proverbs, but somewhere in the Bible where it talks about don't be caught up in conspiracies. It literally says don't get caught up in conspiracies. And that's the Nate Eisner version, the Nate Eisner translation, because that's a total paraphrase. But speaking of, we know that the Bible speaks to conspiracy as well, because in the Gospels, it says that the Jewish leaders, spread the word that the disciples came and stole the body of Christ, and that was the message. They paid them to do that. So literally, that was the government, authority of the day. They were covering up the resurrection of Christ. So the Bible speaks to both sides of it. It exists, but it also says don't get worried about it. So
I think the Pharisees actually wrote the Da Vinci Code and just sent it to Dan Brown.
There we go.
Tony, we're running hot on time here, guys. But Tony, what's a conspiracy theory that you think is probably true?
It's probably true. Gosh, I don't know any of them that are still conspiracies. I had a ton about 9/11. I'm sorry, the COVID thing. Every conspiracy theory I thought about COVID turned out to actually be true. I think so. There's hot button topic right now is that there's a small cabal of elite pedophiles that basically run the world. I think that's probably true. Uh,
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's probably. I think the Epstein files are deeply related to a small power structure that are probably run by our CIA and other governmental intelligence agencies out there that are using it as a blackmail mechanism to control the leadership of the world, including Trump to some degree. I think that he backed off the Epstein files not for his own sake, but because of people that he knew and cared about that could be implicated that were probably innocent but could still look fairly guilty if those files came forward without correct context that he would not have been able to provide. So I don't know. I think that there are mechanisms out there inside of our government, inside of our deep state, inside of the higher echelons of power beyond what voters have access to that pretty much run the world. And Jesus will come back and smash their teeth in one day, and it'll be awesome to see. So,
Yep.
I think there's more to it than that goober that shot at Trump and hit his ear. He wasn't. That wasn't all him.
no, for
I
sure.
think that maybe there were even other shots.
They pinged that guy's phone and FBI like training locations like
Yep.
2 months before.
Yeah.
And then he
Well, it just
mysteriously cremated like 48 hours later with no.
And
Yeah.
the rooftop was like hosed down and sanitized the day after. So no forensic collections of evidence or anything like that.
Yeah,
And then
that's
the-
very skittish. I think that was to me, I think that the CIA is responsible for killing JFK. And
For
I
sure.
think that
Oh, that came out.
that moment
They
in Butler,
yeah.
Pennsylvania was going to be another JFK moment, except
Yeah.
that God had other plans. And God decided to move his head and move the bullet or something, move his head just out of the way. Because I think you guys are right on it. I think the government was, I think someone in the CIA or someone pulling strings for the CIA, and I don't even think it was President Biden. I think other people, like you're talking about, Tony, globalists and other powerful people,
Mostly reptiles.
were pulling those
Yeah.
strings. They might be reptiles. They're reptiles in
reptilian.
character, at least, even if they're not actually genetically a reptile. I don't believe that one.
No, they're interdimensional goblins. They're a reptilian race, and sometimes they lose their ability to control their shape-shifting abilities on TV, and you can see them. So,
Yep. Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been a really fun time and a good discussion. And I think that Nate, you gave us a good lesson to take away from all this discussion. What can we do about some of these things? Not a lot, but we can still tell people about Jesus, and we can still believe that Christ is King, and there will be no king but him, and he will come back one day, and he'll either smash the fangs or the teeth of all the bad guys. Yeah.
Extra little tidbit there for. I don't know what this has to do with eschatology or what systematic that would fit into, but I learned this week on a little YouTube reel that popped up. There is a fault line that runs directly beneath the Mount of Olives. And so when it talks about how Jesus is going to touch down and the Mount of Olives will be split in two, there you go. We now have geological evidence for that.
Geological evidence. And I'm looking forward to that day. That's going to be good.
Tomorrow would be good. Yep.
That's right. Yep.
Well, guys, let's be vigilant. Let's have a good time laughing, and yet also be aware of the circle of influence that we have. Let's be understanding the times. Let's practice discernment. Not everything that people say is what's really happening is actually true. We need to have some biblical discernment, especially in these days when so many people are being led astray into some really crazy things, and really damaging the name and the reputation of Christ when they say, "Oh, I'm a Christian, but I also believe the earth is flat." No, that's dangerous, dangerous ideology. So, all right, well,
And
guys,
also be aware that this entire video was created by Sora AI.
none of us are actually here. We're all fake people. Only Tony looks fake. The rest of us are real. He's a real person. He just looks fake. Well, listen,
the next
I
Sora
hope
update will make me look better.
We'll see. We'll see if that happens. Then you know it's true. All right. Well, God bless you, each and every one of you. Have a great night. Have a fun weekend. Laugh a little bit. Hug your loved ones. Take good care of them. And remember that God loves you more than you'll ever understand. And no matter what you do, no matter what you don't do, God will always love you. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you for listening to Fatherhood Friday. We'll see you next week.